Coming up, is involvement in campus life and active learning beyond the traditional classroom the key to success in college? And can higher education fully prepare students for work, life, and citizenship? Plus, leadership and learning through community service, next on Around Prince George's.
Welcome to this edition of Around Prince George's. I'm Charlene Dukes, president of Prince George's Community College. Whether it's participating in classroom discussions, leading student organizations, or organizing community service projects, active involvement in college is key to student success. And here are just a few of the examples.
From organizing a flash mob in support of victims of domestic violence to students engaging in discussions with history makers, college is more than academics. It's about getting involved on campus, interacting with your professors, developing leadership skills, and serving your community. Special programs organized by the President's Interfaith Campus Challenge and events sponsored by College Life Services provide numerous opportunities for student engagement at Prince George's Community College. Organizations like the Honor Society, Student Government Association, and the Diverse Male Student Initiative also offer educational and entertaining activities. Plus, fine art and athletic events provide additional opportunities for student involvement.
Student and civic engagement is the topic of discussion for our Higher Education Roundtable. And joining me today is Dr. Carol Geary Snyder, President of the Association of American Colleges and Universities. Welcome back to the program.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Charlene.
Well, thank you. And Dr. Snyder, Carol, if you will, let me start by talking about student engagement. What do we really mean by student engagement? I know that AAC&U has been a leader in this concept for probably more years than either of you might care to say, but it's so important as we think about higher education and our students today.
Well, I think students themselves can tell you what engaged learning is about. Students will say, if you just talk to them informally, I learn best by doing. And engaged learning are all the different ways in which colleges and universities and community colleges are connecting knowing with doing. And you're right, my association has been very involved in this whole movement toward leading with engaged learning and frankly trying to get higher education out of the lecture business. I mean, today we have so many ways that we can provide content and access to knowledge for students using technology, using media, using many resources. But the thing that matters most for students is not what they know, but what they can do with what they know. So engaged learning has been a movement coming from many sources to try to connect what students are learning in the classroom or learning in their formal studies with its application to real-world issues and real-world problems. So one aspect of that is something in which PGCC has been a leader, service learning. It's a wonderful example of programs across communities, between colleges, community colleges and their neighborhoods, but with students at the center, connecting what they have learned in school with the needs of society. And in doing that, not just being of use, but actually developing some skills and experiences that will in fact be important in the job search, or in making it from the job they have now to a higher level job. So it's really a triple win. It strengthens the learning, it strengthens service to communities working on issues that need attention, but it also gets students ready to go farther in their careers.
And you know, I think about, Carol, the benefits that you've just so clearly articulated, and then the challenges of student engagement. And as we've talked a lot about the world in which our students live today and how they're pulled in a number of different directions. Those directions might be work, it may be taking care of family, it could be something as simple as transportation, that you spend more time getting to the college when you look at the use of public transportation, and then you have to think about those same things as you think about going home from college. So, and those represent challenges for our students. But why should, what's the language we ought to use when we talk to them about why it's so important to be involved in that arena where you can apply what you're learning in the classroom?
Well, one way of describing it is that it's high impact. There's actually a body of very impressive research showing that a set of active or engaged learning experiences have high benefit, high value for student, high impact. They have high impact, you're more likely to actually finish. It's really important once you enroll in college and have borrowed money to do it, that you finish your program, you finish your degree. And there's a demonstrable connection between being involved in these high engagement programs and forms of learning and actually finishing. So that's the first benefit. The second is that these hands-on forms of learning, as I said a minute ago, are building job skills. Yes. So even though you may have it to be working against gravity to actually get to the place where you're doing this, the fact of the matter is it's worth it. But there's another thing we could be talking about. There are high-impact practices we're already doing now. And then there's possibilities for the future. I think community colleges are leading on these possibilities. As you very well know, because you're part of it, we've formed partnerships with our employer communities. And when students are coming as a group from a workplace to a campus like PGCC, it's quite possible to connect that engaged learning to what they're doing in the workplace. Years ago, when I was a whole lot younger, my first job actually had me working with employers, helping them develop extra possibilities for students in the workplace to connect their learning with their application of the learning. So the employers themselves became partners, and this wasn't just internships, these were people who already had jobs, expanding the reach of the job so that students were getting involved in projects that were of value to their employers, but that also added to their learning. And we have to keep focusing on the core point here, which is connecting learning and doing.
Exactly.
And there's a whole lot of ways in which that can happen.
Exactly. And I think that with the employer-educator compact, that opens the door for much of the leading work that AAC and you, can continue to do. I recall as we were there at the press conference that the employers who were there both in person and those who called in on the phone really talked about making those connections and ensuring that those connections were valuable and that they were certainly applicable to what students were doing in the classroom. So I think that's really key. And then, I did some research as we talked about the session for today, and with the National Survey on Student Engagement, it's interesting that they talk about the fact that their research shows that underprepared students can gain significantly from this civic engagement piece of higher education, but that students who are low income and certainly first generation are less likely to participate. Do we know why that might be? Do you have any thoughts or ideas about that?
I do. I have lots of thoughts about that because that's one of the most promising pieces of evidence we're getting from research. That is the notion that students who are first generation gain even more from being involved in active learning, hands-on learning, than students who come from college-educated families. So the benefit is huge. But as you say, the research shows that the students least likely to be engaged in these various forms of hands-on learning, things like research, like service, like internships, like actually doing a senior project. Those students are the first generation students. And so we have to figure out how to fix that problem. And I think the reason is this. First generation students do not find their own way to the most strong programs. They haven't necessarily had guidance from their families because they are the first generation to go to college, so that they're on their own, and we need a lot of guidance for them from colleges and universities and community colleges to make sure they find their way to the programs and practices that have the highest benefit for learning, for completion, for the rest of their lives. And you, of course, PGCC has been a leader in this. Your Envision Success program, your Roadmap program, and a whole lot of other projects that you have put together are designed to guide students to those high payoff experiences that they need to get the most out of college.
And I think about that, and I know that you've left us with both a task and a challenge, and that is to determine how we can better engage students who can most benefit from this civic engagement. And what I'd like to do is to thank you, Carol, for being with us today and for joining me in this part of our discussion. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, we'll talk about the importance of civic engagement and service in college life.
RBIs and 36 homers. Swings at the first pitch and fouls it deep back into the stands.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Prince George's Community College isn't just a place that offers more than 200 academic, workforce development, and continuing education programs. It's the first step toward the career of your dreams. It's a community of people who want you to succeed. It's where degrees are earned and potential is realized. Apply and register today. Call 301-336-6000. Prince George's Community College, transforming lives.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
I'm Stephanie Lindo here at the Largo Student Center asking students about their involvement in campus activity.
Well, currently I'm only with one activity, and that's with the gospel choir led by Corey Dean. It's a very nice choir. We sing a lot of gospel, and we've been performing a lot in the Rennie Forum.
Well, I'm actually involved in a lot of activities on campus. My main activity is track and field. I'm one of the captains of the women's indoor and outdoor track and field teams.
I'm the editor of the OWL newspaper. It's the school paper that is published throughout the 3 campuses and in the community. And I spend most of my time when I'm not at school writing articles and editing them and talking to people to get the scoop.
Welcome back to Around Prince George's. We're going to continue our discussion on civic engagement in higher education. Joining us now is Professor Betty Habershon, who oversees service learning here at Prince George's Community College, and Paulette McIntosh, Program Director of College Life Services. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Doctor.
Well, we're going to talk about developing civic responsibility in our students through service learning and community service. So, Professor Habershon, I'm going to start with you. For our viewers who may not be familiar with the term, tell us, what is service learning and why is it important?
Well, service learning is where we allow our students are engaged in the community in volunteer work, working with nonprofit organizations. The importance is it's tied into their academic learning. And this allows them to not only have a better understanding of the community, but also to expand their academic skills.
So, you know, and when you say that, one of the things that we've been talking about earlier with Dr. Snyder from AAC&U is that whole notion of taking service learning as maybe an applied mechanism, applying what you've learned in the classroom to sort of everyday real world experiences. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Well, we all know that students learn better when they are engaged. So we start with the classroom. We engage faculty developing activities that students can then integrate into their volunteer community activity. This will allow our students to not only expand their skills, develop their skills, but also understand or have a better appreciation of our community members and the needs that are in our community. An example, for example, our free tax program is not just about preparing taxes in the community, but it's also about students being trained and being developed so that they can really apply these skills in helping the community.
So, you know, we'll talk today about community service as well as service learning. And before I ask Ms. McIntosh her perspective, tell me, what is the difference between service learning and community service?
Well, and this is a really issue where people don't understand that there is a difference. Community service is about volunteering and being engaged in the community, and it provides a great help for our community members. But service learning goes a different level. Not only are the students engaged in volunteer activities, but they are learning through their process. It is tied into academic outcomes or personal and professional outcomes.
Thank you, thank you. Paulette, there seems to be a growing trend across the United States and maybe even across our region of college students foregoing what we would call the typical spring break to the beach, or certainly outside of the country, where they're really just going to have a good time for an alternative experience. Tell us about what that means and some of the things that Prince George's Community College students have been involved in.
Our students have traveled out of the state to Atlanta, Philadelphia, Florida, West Virginia, to really immerse themselves in this for significant hours in community service, working with the community, providing needs for those who are in need. And they also have an opportunity to really explore and unlearn some of the misinformation that they might have about these different communities. For example, when our students traveled to West Virginia, they were able to learn about the Appalachian community and really reflect on the similarities between their communities, especially how these communities are portrayed in the media. So it really is a wonderful opportunity for our students to not only learn about cultural differences, but really to provide, to make a difference in a meaningful way.
And I know that our students have helped in the Hurricane Sandy recovery efforts. I know that we've worked with homeless shelters and the like, and that our students really come back having learned from those experiences. And then I know just recently we got involved with President Obama's Interfaith and Community Service Initiative. So you'll certainly tell us what the appropriate terminology is. But why is that important for Prince George's Community College?
I think it's important for our students to really promote interfaith cooperation and to understand what it means to work across different faiths to provide needs to our community. And so there's a capacity building component. Students just don't go out and do service, but there's an intense reflection component. How are my values and my beliefs shape who I am? And how is it they unlearn some of the misinformation that they have about different cultural groups, different faith groups, which is so important and central to building citizenship, especially in our day and time, especially after 9/11.
And I do recall earlier this semester when we had a real focus on domestic violence, and I believe that I missed the flash mob that was about 300 or 400 students in Bladen Hall who were really not just participating in this flash mob activity, but it was a way to bring people together to show their support for our work and our commitment to eradicating domestic violence.
Yes. And so that was very good. And what was really neat too about that experience was that our middle college students were able to participate in that. So it really brought the community together. And so for a moment, the students were able to really reflect on that experience.
So what I hope is that people certainly have had the opportunity to understand the difference between service learning and community service. One is clearly tied to the academic component of our mission, our core mission here at Prince George's Community College, and that really is taking what they've learned in the classroom and being able to apply it. And community service is about volunteerism. So what I really want to do is thank both of you, Professor Habashan and Ms. McIntosh, for providing information on how we're engaging students at Prince George's Community College. We're going to take another short break, and when we return, we're going to talk about using social media to engage students in the classroom and a unique program that allows us to work with our diverse male students on campus. Thank you both so very much.
Prince George's Community College can help you formulate a career and a pathway to complete your degree.
Enroll today at pgcc.edu. Prince George's Community College, transforming lives.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
You can say with me, imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. So let's join hands, book people unite, unearth hidden passion. So mama, have a good time. One book could be the first little thing that helps to change a life. Book people unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
We've talked throughout the program about how going to college is more than lecture classes and studying for exams. It's also about how do we keep students engaged. Joining me now to tell us about the innovative ways they're engaging students in and out of the classroom is Professor Jeffrey Friels and Mr. Brian Hamlin, Program Manager of the Diverse Male Student Initiative. We also have with us Prince George's Community College alumnus, Anthony Adewusi. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we want to thank you all for being here with us today. And I have a few questions. Brian, why don't you talk to us a little bit about the Diverse Male Student Initiative, how it helps our students stay engaged while they're in college, and how it helps them with their journey towards success.
Fantastic, and thank you for having me on the show today. The program started in 2009, and it was the brainchild of some of the senior leadership of the institution to start looking at the low retention rates of men of color across the country. And basically, we wanted to design a program that had a threefold process. One, it would address their academic pursuits, giving them academic support. A lot of these guys are coming on campus testing pretty low, and we wanted to make sure that we're able to get them through those early classes to get them into their majors. Secondly, it was preparing them for their careers and business pursuits, potentially as entrepreneurs. And then lastly, it was that transition of manhood. A lot of these young men are coming from homes where you may not have that predominant positive male role model, and we wanted to be that for those young men. So we've been on a great job. We probably impacted the lives of over 400 men since 2009, and we're really happy about it.
Thank you, thank you. And Professor Friels, you know, I think about this whole focus we have today on social media, and I try to do a lot of it, but I'm not going to tell you that I'm very good at it. So tell me how, from your perspective as a professor of history, how you're using social media to really engage students out of the classroom.
Well, really, for me, it's really a twofold thing, because history in a democratic society is so important for students to learn about. But we also live in such a tech-heavy society. There's so much technology and information around that it can be difficult for young people, especially, even though they've grown up with technology, to know how to wade through it all to find good information that's useful to them and engages them in things that they find interesting. So what I try to do is use social media to get students in touch with information in my field, which is history, on the internet, using technology to get them to find those things that they find interesting, that keeps them engaged in the classroom. It gets them more in tune with what we're trying to do in terms of the outcomes we're trying to get the students to complete in the classroom, and it gets them using technology in a way that perhaps they haven't thought of before. You know, very often these students, they're good at texting and you know, posting on Facebook, but they don't necessarily know how to use technology in ways that are productive from a learning standpoint, or how to use it to find information that's good and reliable. And so that's really why the way I use social media is to get them interested in the topic, learning how to use technology in ways that are productive from the standpoint of learning. And that way, not only do they become better citizens because they know history, but they know then how to use technology in a way that makes them more informed and better able to engage with society as a whole.
Wow, you know, I think about that, and I think as I get out of my car sometimes, all of the students who are walking past me with their earplugs in or they're texting, right, and then just thinking about, wow, I wonder if they're doing something because Professor Friels has them on the internet or using Facebook as some sort of investigative tool. So thank you for that. And then we get to our alumnus, Anthony. How are you?
I'm fine, Dr. Dukes. How are you doing?
Well, you're a graduate of the Diverse Male Student Initiative program. You graduated from Prince George's Community College, and I understand you're just about to graduate from the University of Maryland at College Park.
Absolutely, yes. A couple more weeks and I'll be on my way.
Well, congratulations. Why don't you talk to us about what helped you succeed? You know, what was it about the Diverse Male Student Initiative that really has taken you to where you are today?
Okay, well, to be honest, it has to be Mr. Hamlin. We have to start with Mr. Hamlin. I mean, he's the reason that most of the guys are there. His energy, his enthusiasm, his passion, his aggressive workshops that we all attend. It allows us to really come together as far as our academics. He talks about social issues, the things that go on in our social lives, and he's also really interested and invested in our personal lives as well. So just being in DMSI, the workshops, the personal time I've spent with Mr. Hamlin, the brotherhood, it's like a fraternity. We don't have fraternities at PGCC, but DMSI is closely working on its way to be one of those. And it's basically a program that allows young men like myself who might have grown up without that positive role model, as Mr. Hamlin stated, to have that influence at the college and be wanted at the college. A lot of times students come here and they just come in and out and they don't feel that sense of community and camaraderie, but DMSI actually does well and embodies that fully.
So do you think that some of those young men that you've had the opportunity to meet here, do they share the same feelings that you have?
Yes, they do. When we have different conversations around campus, what usually brings men together, like a lot of guys I would have personally not have known if it weren't for DMSI. So I thank DMSI in that aspect, that they actually brought young males together and we see each other on campus. We have conversations. A lot of us have similar majors or different majors, but we talk a lot about different personal issues and different things that go on in DMSI. We look forward to the meetings Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, 1 to 3 p.m. For anybody who's listening and just wants to come check it out next semester.
All right.
DMSI is a great thing.
It's there for you?
It's there for me.
Well, you know, I really want to thank all of you. I want to thank you, Professor Frills, for the innovative ways you're using to engage students in the classroom. I want to thank Mr. Hamlin for your work with the Diverse Male Student Initiative, and certainly we want to thank Anthony. He's a product of all of that. We're proud of your accomplishments, and as we close, here are some highlights from special events that are happening on campus. We want you to enjoy, and thanks for watching Around Prince George's.
Good morning, students A through I over here, J through Q here. Welcome to the college.
Nice to meet you, Dr.
Oh, absolutely.
Our students come here with dreams, and our job, quite frankly, is to help you realize those dreams.
I love today because it's nice and bright and sunny. I'm getting good information for my future. So yeah, I'm just ready.
So I want to thank you for choosing us and allowing us to be a part of your journey.
Prince George's Community College has prepared me to transfer to a four-year university from its rigorous academics and the experiences I've had here on campus.
Enroll today at pgcc.edu. Prince George's Community College, transforming lives.
Quiet, please. Wait a sec. I'll take one. Oh yeah. All right. All good. Take care. Way to go. Nice. Bring it on. Gotcha. I'm here for you. Oh no. Please, please, please. I'm waiting. Interesting. Not buying it. Not fair. That's it. This conversation is over. Oh, brother.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things.
I'm having a stroke. I'm having a stroke.
Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time. Time to call 911 immediately. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Learn the body language, the sudden signs, and spot a stroke fast.